Hello, you're watching news from Kazakhstan. It is Thursday, January 10th. These are the headlines. A scandal of cosmic proportions. Russia demands Kazakhstan to explain the Kazakh Space Agency head Musabayev's statement regarding the Baikonur lease agreement. The new year brings new prices. Utility fees rise in regions across the country. They talk, sing, and dance. An exhibition of Japanese and American robots opens in Pavlodar. Moscow needs an answer from Astana. The Russian government sent an official note to Kazakhstan demanding an explanation to the Kazakh Space Agency head's statement. Russia is concerned with the future of Baikonur launch site after Talgat Musabayev's recent speech, which outlined at the government hour in parliament on December 10th that Kazakhstan is pulling out of the lease agreement. In addition, the former astronaut mentioned that the town of Baikonur may be transferred into Kazakh jurisdiction.
According to the source close to the Kazakh-Russian Intergovernmental Commission, the Russian authorities have sent a note to Astana seeking an official explanation from Kazgarish head Talgat Musabayev. The note was prepared by the staff of the Vice Prime Minister Igor Shuvalov, chairing the Intergovernmental Commission on behalf of the Russian party. Now we look forward to an official response from Kazgarish director, who made a few groundless statements that clearly lie beyond his competence. The statement in question deals with the future of Baikonur space launch facility and was made by the National Space Agency head Talgat Musabayev in December of 2012. It clearly angered the Russian party and triggered heated political debates. The head of state has set a clear task before us. Vladimir Putin agreed to sign a new Baikonur complex leasing agreement that also allows for eventual lease suspension. We're not saying we will do it immediately, but it could happen gradually over time. On Wednesday, Talgat Musabayev wasn't available for comments on the matter. Kazgarish representatives confirmed the agency received a Russian official note but refused to give any additional info in the absence of the senior management. The agency chairman Talgat Musabayev is currently on vacation. The ongoing confrontation between Kazgarish and Roscosmos regarding the rocket debris landing area and rent issues seem to have moved to a new political level. Since 1994, Russia has been making annual lease payments for the Baikonur space launch facility to the amount of $150 million. Quite a few times Kazgarish raised the question of increasing the rent given the level of environmental damage caused by the landing debris of numerous Proton rockets.
The Ministry of Internal Affairs throws into question the existence of reward money in the amount of $10,000 for journalist Lukman Akhmedyarov's assassination.
It was revealed on Tuesday that gang members who assaulted the journalist last April were to be paid a substantial amount of money. Akhmedyarov told the press about it following a face-to-face with the arrested suspects. However, the information was not confirmed by the Ministry of Interior and no other explanation was given in the interest of the investigation. The investigation is currently underway and the chief prosecutor is in charge. The recently leaked information cannot be confirmed at this point.
Trial over the brother of the banned Golos Respubliki newspaper head Askar Moldashev was postponed yet again. It appears that Almaty residents are not prepared to perform jury duty despite lucrative financial rewards. We try to find out what keeps members of the jury from making money in this report.
The third attempt to select the jury and start the trial over Askar Moldashev, the brother of the publisher behind the recently axed newspaper Golos Respubliki, failed yet again. Even the presiding judge Sadvakasov seems to recognize the unfortunate situation as awkward. Dear jury candidates, I want to ask you once again to come over today, but I can't go on repeating it over and over. We will now prepare an additional list of candidates. Judge Yertagin Sadvakasov almost lost count on the jury selection trials. Even the promise of being rewarded in the amount of the judge's one-day pay fails to convince the prospective jurors to come to the trial. The 2 times you showed up will be also counted towards your pay. No, wait, we have gathered 3 times already. Anyway, it will all be counted if you will get selected to the jury list. Some interesting details were revealed during the session on Wednesday, with the mayor's office playing a prominent role. One of the female candidates said she is a police officer, so she definitely can participate in the trial. Another one said she was a public servant. I believe that first of all, it is the problem of the mayor's office, since it approved the list. They can't include people there without giving it a serious thought. The defendant is currently in the medical unit and, according to his attorney, Askar Moldashov, is in acceptable condition. Charged with drug possession and an intent to sell, he has been in custody for more than 2 months now, with the next jury selection attempt scheduled for January 16th.
Utility rates in Astana and other regions nationwide have risen in the new year. As has become customary in these types of situations, the population's opinion was not considered in the decision. More in the next story.
Rates for central heating, electricity, water and natural gas supply have increased at once in several regions of Kazakhstan shortly after the new year. Starting January 10, electricity prices will rise by 5.9% in Almaty and Almaty region. According to Almaty Power Supply, the hike is triggered by the increased selling price of the country's power plants. Politician Pyotr Svoik has been monitoring climbing rates year after year. As a former head of the State Committee on Price and Anti-Monopoly Policy, he often appeals to the government, asking it to address the growing crisis in the utility sector. Otherwise, sooner or later, the authorities will have to deal with discontented population. Price rises do prove the exhaustion of the entire system of rates regulation, as it excludes the consumer, and the regulator only interacts with producers and transporters. Also, the whole process is based on guessing and predictions, since the rates are approved in advance. Residents of Shymkent are outraged about new utility rates. Pensions have risen only a little, and it is hardly enough to cover utility bills that jumps by 30%. How can we survive? We can't afford any new clothes, as the entire salary goes for covering gas and electricity bills and buying food. We have to make ends meet. Although pensions have increased by 9%, a half of it goes for paying bills. We hardly have money for food. Social activist Vasily Rezvan said consumers were not given any chance to express their dissatisfaction to the monopolists, since the rates were never made a subject of public discussion. Public hearings on pricing policy in the utility sector are never held. It means that experts' opinion is never taken into account. Only Atamekan party held public debates on water supply, and now the positions are more or less clear. Unfortunately, even without experts' forecast, consumers already understand that increased utility rates will inevitably trigger price rise for food, goods and basic services.
National Communists once again rallied against Grigory Marchenko's idea to raise women's retirement age. They asked the president not to go through with the idea, saying that doing so may negatively affect Kazakhstani's social mood.
The party leader Vladislav Kasarov shared his concerns at the plenary session while emphasizing that the initiative is lobbied by the National Bank head Grigory Marchenko. The communist believes that the National Bank should rather turn attention to the questionable profits of the pension savings fund. This is sure to affect the public sentiment. This actively promoted yet questionable decision is likely to become the fly in the ointment for the overall economic and cultural upsurge. Meanwhile, our primary goal is consistent and stable development. That's why the deputy faction has sent an appeal to the head of state.
The Construction and Public Utilities Agency is preparing amendments to the bill on interest holders. It believes their investments need to be insured. Real estate companies oppose the change.
Nikolai Tikhanyuk, the agency's vice chairman, says that changes are made to prevent a repeat of the tragic situation in 2007 and 2008, when dishonest real estate developers conned over 100,000 interest holders and the government had to allocate more than $500 billion to complete the construction of unfinished buildings. By the President's order, we are now working on insurance amendments to the law on participatory construction. To be honest, we developed this law out of fear, and it is very harsh, since real estate developers are looking for every possible reason to avoid complying with the law.
New Year's celebrations resulted in some tragic news. Almaty alone registered 15 victims, including a 27-year-old man who lost his wrist. In Kızılorda, a 29-year-old lost his life. Both incidents were the result of accidents with Chinese firecrackers. We report on the dangers of fireworks in this story.
Long before the new year, the shelves at local markets were stacked with all sorts of firecrackers and fireworks. Before the holiday, the staff of the Kızılorda Emergency Department conducted an infraction raid across the city trading facilities. Rescuers decided against confiscating counterfeit goods and instead distributed leaflets warning traders about possible hazards. It is unknown who exactly sold Almat firecrackers that made his New Year celebrations his last. When Almat attempted to set off fireworks, one of them exploded and penetrated his hip. The young man was still alive when he was taken to the hospital, and it was possible to save him, says his mother. We took him to a hospital and filled out his personal information in the emergency room while he was lying in the gurney. Then the surgeon came and said he wasn't his patient, pushed the gurney aside and left. We looked for help everywhere but found none. In the end, doctors couldn't save Almat. The emergency call came at midnight, and fortunately the team was at a nearby location. It arrived 2 minutes later, so there was no call delay. The patient was in critical state, had a traumatic shock and a closed fracture of the left hip. In 2012, 10 residents of Kozlodar were seriously injured by the New Year fireworks. This year's celebration left a 5-year-old daughter of Almat without a father and made another young man permanently handicapped. But it seems none of this will prevent the open sale of dangerous explosives next year, as the official ban on counterfeit products has yet to be introduced.
The traffic police presented an animated film for Kazakhstan's school children in all major cinemas on Tuesday. One showing of Zholdos to the Rescue in Astana gathered as much as 600 kids.
What color of the traffic lights means you can cross the street? Green. Right. When can't you cross the street? When the light turns red. The cartoon is made of 3 episodes, 10 minutes each. A superhero named Zholdos explains youngsters the traffic rules and prevents accidents. The production was based on an online game, the ABC of Safety, commissioned by the Traffic Police Committee. The budget of the cartoon is over $25,000, but there were a few parties still not happy with the final product. Local linguists opposed the name of the cartoon, saying that the word Zholdos, translated from Kazakh as road friend, doesn't exist in the Kazakh language. Still, kids liked the name, and it was eventually approved. Olympian Serik Sapiev, Georgy Tsurtsumia, Bahut Sarsikbayev and Marina Volnova took part in the presentation on Wednesday, where Volnova confessed that she didn't know traffic rules until she moved to the city. In her home village of Kazalinsk, kids used to crossing road anywhere they wanted. Now the boxer pays more attention to her safety. Even when I'm crossing the road at designated places, I always make sure the light is green, because when I'm jogging, I see that some cars keep moving even when the light turns green. This is very dangerous, and I value my safety.
An exhibition of Japanese and American robots opened in Pavlodar. More than 20 metal and plastic showpieces wowed local residents with their singing, dancing, and even kissing. We explore the value of these anthropomorphic machines and find out whether such robots may one day be constructed here in this report.
The main gallery of the region is hosting an exhibition of 24 robots. Even if these machines don't look like paintings and sculpture masterpieces, experts say that robotics is also an art form, since scientists and programmers put their hearts into each of these creations. Obviously, the main audience here is comprised of kids, with the most popular exhibits being the singing prototype of Elvis Presley and tiny dinosaurs with an appetite for biting. For instance, if you have pets like cats or dogs, it will be chasing them around, considering them as prey. House robots is still only a fantasy in Kazakhstan, although the industry is developing quite successfully abroad. In Japan, robots are involved in various fields, and the sky is the limit for their abilities. There are guard robots which can provide video surveillance in the house while you're out, and there are nurse robots for entertaining kids for several hours, and there are also robots that are used for research purposes in various scientific projects. The price range for these smart machines varies from $1,000 to $4,000. They're worth it, say the organizers of the exhibition. For instance, this version of R2-D2 is capable of holding a conversation. And yes, the little droid does remember Darth Vader.
Hey R2, do you remember? Do you remember Darth Vader?
Pavlodar residents wish robotics was on the rise in Kazakhstan as well. Unfortunately, tour guides don't expect that to happen anytime soon. According to their predictions, the development would take at least 10 to 15 years.
Fans of the Kozlodar Football Club are leading the charge against its leadership. They believe the club fell into a deep debt hole and was relegated from the Premier League due to poor management. In this final story, our colleagues spoke to outraged members of the fan club.
The fans of Kaysar called their team the fear of champions, although the hype turned out to be quite exaggerated. Last season saw Kaysar dropping out of the Super League back to the first. Fans insist that it's not the team's fault, but the incompetence of the leadership, which caused the club ending up with a debt of over $1.5 million. To defend the team, fans sent an open letter to the region's governor. When the issue of the club's existence was raised, we resorted to the internet to get all the fans together. Unfortunately, the club's management, along with the leadership of the Regional Federation of Football, simply ignored it. The only response from the sports community came from Mustafayev. Club leadership explained that the reason behind the large debt was their reliance on additional sponsorship. All the allocated funds have been depleted. According to local patriots, the club acquired debts due to foreign hires. The frequent changes of coaches didn't play in favor of Kaysar either. 4 of them changed seats in 2012 alone, with Algimantas Lubinkas hasn't been paid by the club at all. The fans are convinced that the team could have finished the season successfully if Lubinkas stayed. Now they demanded the resignation of the club's entire management. The governor suggested having the team play in the first league with players only from Kızılorda. The issue of funding will be reviewed on January 30 by the local government. It looks like the fate of the club will be decided by the people's representatives during the upcoming session. The stands may be empty now, but sports officials of the region say they will fit the situation. One way to do it would be turning the club into a limited liability partnership. Then the team's budget will be monitored by members of fan community on the board of trustees. For now, though, it's anyone's guess how long it will take for Kaysar to get back in the game.
That is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.